in, ladies and gentlemen, for one final time in the 2025 season. I'm so stunned that we're already here that I think we're a year past where we are. Um, Final WATD Fantasy Draft of the 2025 season. We are heading into Super Bowl week, and we got a whole mess of teams there at Gillette this year. We'll be broadcasting four games, two on Thursday, two on Saturday. We'll be keeping our eye on a fifth, the nightcap on Saturday. So there is an awful lot of South Shore talent on the board here for this final WATD Fantasy Draft of the year. Quinn Kelly, Johnny Rourke, Brennan Connolly, and we're ready to get into it. It should be an awful lot of fun at Gillette this week. I know we'll all be there, and very much looking forward to it, and very much looking forward to a little appetizer to all of that action with this WATD Fantasy Draft. So the order this week going to be Brendan, then myself, then Johnny, and let's just dive right in. Brendan, you can take to the podium and kick off the final draft of the year.
I'm going to go straight to the Division 6 Super Bowl between Norwell and Fairhaven, and I'm going to go quarterback. I'm going to go Jack Lucarelli this week. This feels like a game that's going to be a shootout to me with a lot of points back and forth, and Lucarelli is going to be one of the leading scorers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think going into Gillette from a South Shore perspective, and I would even go as far as to say from a statewide perspective, there is nobody else that I think is more singular kind of a player that is more important to what his team is doing, that is more of a lock to kind of be the focal point within a game, and have a big game. It starts and ends with Jack Lucarelli. That's no disrespect to anybody else on Norwell's roster. They've got a ton of other very talented players, but he is, I think, pound for pound, kind of the biggest star going into Gillette in my mind this week. I think he's a huge cog, and I think if with how much talent we have on the board, if there could be a clear 1-1, I think he's it. That's going to put me on the board, and I'm going to dip into the other matchup on Thursday, and I'm going to go to a guy that I think I put him here in my one slot because for two reasons. For one, it's going to pay off. He's going to have a monster week, and he's going to be a beast at the Super Bowl, and it's gonna pay off in that regard for me. But also because I feel like this guy has been quietly having an unbelievable season, and it's just not getting talked about enough. So I'm gonna go with Gus Green, running back out of Cohasset, who in starting my kind of game prep for the week, I realized is going to cross the 2,000 yard rushing mark in the Super Bowl, which is legitimately insane. Um, that's a monster season. He's been a beast. He's been unbelievable throughout the playoffs. I want to reward that. I'm taking him in the first round here. I think he's going to be a big piece of why Cohasset is going to get it done against a very good Amesbury team this coming week. All right, Johnny, your first pick.
Yeah, I mean, two good picks there off the rip. Uh, so I mean, here's the thing is, I mean, everyone in these games is tremendous, but I am going to go Mekhi White for Randolph. That's going to kick us off on the Saturday slate. I mean, all these matchups are really, really good,
Yeah.
which is a little bit tough. Usually we have one where I kind of in my back pocket go, okay, I feel real good about that one. We're by far the favorite. Not that I don't think we're going to come up victorious in a good amount of these. I just think all of the ones that the South Shore's in are just tremendous matchups. This one is no different. Randolph West Boylston, the rematch. We saw it was a tale of two halves the last time they played at Gillette, right? The first half it kind of got away from Randolph, but they showed tremendous potential in the second half. And I said it on Sunday. I think that Randolph has used West Boylston and has used this rematch when it was going to come as fuel throughout the offseason to get ready, to get stronger. And I think Mekhi White's going to have a big game. He's going to have a big game. They're going to have to keep up with West Boylston. So that's why I'm going with him.
He almost single-handedly brought them back into this game. Like he was quiet in the first half, and then it was really all Mackay in the second half to get them back into the game, and it was just too big a deficit to climb out of. I think it's a great pick. I think he's another one of those guys. I mean, he's had a really impressive career at Randolph, and exciting to see him go out. And yeah, I mean, on the larger point, Johnny, like we've been spoiled to have, all right, the last 2 years at Gillette, we've had Situate versus Duxbury. So we knew one way or another we were getting one state champion coming out of it. Prior to that, it was Duxbury versus Grafton, which was, a super lopsided matchup. It just feels like it's been a while since we've gone into Gillette. I have some confidence in our teams, but since we've gone into Gillette and been like, man, all of our games could kind of go either way. That certainly adds a wrinkle for us this week. Brennan, lead off round two.
I'm going to go to the big Division One matchup on the board here, and I feel like this guy is matchup proof at this stage of the game. Christian McIntyre. Some have called him the Gatorade Player of the Year. He might as well deserve it. Like, he has been outstanding from start to finish this season. Just saw it on Thanksgiving Day. He had 170 yards or so receiving on 4 or 5 catches. Pretty ridiculous. So going into this matchup again with St. John's Prep, I feel like no matter what Brian St. Pierre tries to throw at Zavarian, he's going to find a way to get his.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Brennan. I mean, I think he's been obviously a beast all season. We've talked about how, he kind of went in as the number two behind Dave Shivigato, who, was an FBS commit entering in the season. And now it's looking like they're both going to play FBS ball. Christian's been crazy good this year. He's become the number one there. And I mean, he's a monster. So I think it's a good pick. That wheels it to me, and I feel like I'd be foolish not to do this. So I'm gonna play the smart money. I think it's the toughest matchup of our four, but I'm gonna round out my running back room with I think the strongest possible duo, and I'm gonna go with Grayson Foley here out of Scituate. Um, I said it on Sunday. I worry about this matchup for Scituate probably more so than I worry about any other of our four matchups. I just think Tewksbury's
It's a
really,
tough one.
really good. It's tough. They're gonna have their hands full. Tewksbury's big, Tewksbury's physical. But Grayson Foley just finds a way to get his. I just think that over the course of, a full game, it's very, very difficult to keep him entirely bottled up. So I think Grayson will find a way to get on the scoreboard. Johnny, close out round two.
Yeah, he was going to be my next pick if you didn't take him. So I'm going to go wide receiver here. I'm going to go Max Monahan from Cohasset. I just think, I mean, we've seen Cohasset's offense. It's multifaceted. They can run the ball a lot. They can throw the ball. Michael Wildfire is obviously really talented throwing. So Max is a guy that he looks to a lot. And yeah, this is one that I think this is one I look at, not necessarily our best chance, but when I look at it, I say, hey, this one I feel probably most confident in is
Yeah.
the Cohasset matchup. And I think that's because there's, the weapons that they have, and Max is a big piece of that.
Yeah, and he's due. Hasn't scored in the playoffs, but had a fantastic regular season. It just feels like, I mean, he's the leading receiver for them. He's been, a 3 year essentially starter. He's been a big piece of what they've been doing since his sophomore season. Um, and I think he's gonna get on the board. I think he's gonna have a big game. I think that I think it's gonna be kind of an all hands on deck approach for them offensively. And Max has had a great run through the playoffs so far. So I think he gets on the board. Brendan, round three.
Well, I need a running back here. Got to play catch up at this stage. I'm going to go with Colin Gerhardt out of Norwell. He's going to find a way to get on the scoreboard in this game. But like I said, it's not going to be an easy win for Norwell. This is going to be one of their toughest matchups of the season. But I still think there's going to be a lot of scoring in this one. Just gives me that hand, especially with what we saw earlier in the year with Fairhaven taking on West Bridgewater, one of the other best teams on the South Shore.
Yeah. I mean, he's still found a way to get his, even with how good Jack Lucarelli has been, right? And so, I mean, from no other perspective, Brennan, you're locking into about 80% of all touchdowns this season from Norwell. You've got him. So if it's not Lucarelli, a lot of the times it's been Gerhardt punching it in. So I think double dipping with those two is a savvy approach. All right, that brings it to me. I'm going to go into the wide receiver room, and I think I'm going to ride the hot hand. Um, Yeah, I think I'm gonna ride the hot hand. Had an unbelievable Final Four performance. Has not been. I mean, he's been good this season. He's not the top receiver for Situate, but I'm gonna go with Tyler Stelgis just because uh, he was absolutely money against Duxbury for them, and maybe that means that Tewksbury is going to do a little bit more keying in on him. Hopefully not. I think they're going to have their hands full with two of the other big targets for Situate. So maybe that allows Tyler to have another big game. So give me the sophomore after what was a sensational semifinal. All right, Johnny, round three, close it out.
Yeah, similar thinking to you. I'm gonna go right to that room as well. I'm gonna go Miller Shea from Situate. I think they're gonna do a little bit of everything, much like, what I said about Cohasset. Situate's gonna need to run the ball, they're gonna need to throw the ball. They have weapons all over the field. So can't really go wrong with the Sailors offensively. I think Miller is a guy that can steady the ship a little bit, no matter how the game's going. I think he's a guy that you can look to catch some passes.
Yeah, no, I mean he is the top target for them, and I think that as much as I think it was a no-brainer going Grayson Foley, I think you're going to see them throwing a lot more. I think they're going to have to. I mean, Tewksbury's big, stout up front. I think that a lot of this game is going to rely upon Johnny Donovan's ability to move the ball around the yard. So I think for that reason, I think that any Situate receiver is a solid pick this week. Brendan, round four.
I guess I'm just going to keep double dipping here from the teams. But hey, what other choices do we have? We have four teams to pick with on the South Shore this week. So, or five. Is it four or five? Four.
It's five in some positions, and I think
Yeah, five if you
go
want to look
definitely
at it that
seven.
way. I'm going to go with Rocco Sestito out of Zavarian. I feel like he's just taken over that lead back role for them. He finds the way into the end zone seemingly every game at this point. They've got a pretty good backfield, but he's taken that head role.
Yeah, and they're a good balanced attack, very pro style kind of offense for them. He's been a monster all year long. And I think that, we talked about Johnny. I think you were right on. Like, this is a matchup that's just always close. And after what we saw on Thanksgiving, it would be really surprising if it wasn't close again this year and this week at the Super Bowl between Severian and Prep. And I think part of that is just both teams are going to kind of grind it out and shorten the game up and wait to take their shots, right? Like, I don't think Christian's a bad pick because Christian is going to have a big game at the wide receiver position as well, but you can't make the big mistake in these Super Bowl games. And I think you've got two really exceptional coaches in Brian St. Pierre and Al Fanaro, and neither of them is going to press the issue. They're going to wait. They're going to be really patient about where they kind of take their shots. And in the meantime, you're going to see a guy like Rocco Cicito get a ton of carries, get his volume up, and kind of be the driving, you know, force behind the game. So good pick, Brennan. All right, I need to close out my wide receiver room and pick up a quarterback. I'm gonna I'm gonna take Nolan Flaherty out of Cohasset. Um, I think that he has been lockstep with Max Monahan. They've both been, they're kind of 1A and 1B at the top of the wide receiver room for Cohasset. Difference being Nolan has had a touchdown catch in every one of Cohasset's playoff games so far, and they're really not throwing at a super high volume. He just finds a way to get open. He is a big playmaker, and Michael Wildfire does a really good job of finding him when it's time to go and make a big play. So I think I am happy to have Nolan on the board. I think it would, it would buck trend for him to not find the end zone at Gillette. So for that reason, I'll go with Nolan. All right, Johnny.
Lucarelli is the only quarterback that has been taken, correct?
Correct.
I'm going to go to QB here. It's kind of a toss-up for me. I am going to go with Michael Wildfire. You just talked about him. I think obviously he has Monahan, he has Flaherty, he has weapons. He slings it. He's just a baller. I mean, a lot of these guys, and this is a brief aside, but it's great that a lot of these QBs that we're seeing at Gillette have been guys that we saw play at a very young age, and
Yeah.
have been getting reps for years, and whether they've been here or not, are I think ready for the stage and can't really go wrong picking a quarterback here for us right now. But I'm gonna go with Michael Wildfire.
Yeah, I mean, 100% agree. He's I said this early on in the season, I think probably before the playoffs started and even earlier than that. Like him in particular and that group for Cohasset, but really Michael Wildfire, like he just felt like one of those guys that was in the right place in the right time. It was going to be kind of an upset if he didn't get his opportunity at Gillette. Like when you saw him take over as a sophomore and how good he was, being the next guy after Will Baker, it just kind of felt like all right, they're going to get to Gillette with him eventually. Like he's just going to be too good not to. And he, for as unbelievable as Gus has been, to me, he's kind of the driver for them. He makes sure everything's kind of on schedule offensively, and he's a really, really talented guy. So, yeah, I think it's a good pick, Johnny. I think he's going to have a big game. He's going to have to. All right, Brendan.
I have to close up my wide receiver pool, and I'm going to go with Kim Sarusi out of Situate. I feel like he's their third receiver, but he's also their second running back. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife for them, and he always finds ways to pick up big yardage whenever they need a big play. So I feel like he's going to have a big role, especially going up against the Tewksbury team that is considered one of the top five, maybe six teams in the state at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, I think the value there is, you can go pretty deep with Situate because as tough as the matchup is, the top end guys are still going to get theirs, and the guys kind of in the back, are a little bit deeper. A guy like Cam Cerusi that's maybe not the top target at any get one position, like they're going to have to get a little bit more dynamic on offense. They're going to have to really move the ball around and pick on some matchups to try to beat Tewksbury. So I think that's wise, Brendan. All right, that brings it to me, and I got to pick a quarterback. And this is all right. So this is a killer for me because I don't want to leave either of these two guys off the board, and I think there's a lot of color for Situate. So I'm going to go with Abe Cornett for Randolph, and I think that he has his development over the last couple of years has been such a key factor in them in Randolph getting better, maintaining their play, and becoming now obviously not long enough to quite call it perennial, but a year to year, a continual contender in Division 8. I think that he gives them that added dynamism that it could be the difference on Saturday to them beating West Boylston this year and taking home their second ever state title. So give me Abe Cornett. I think he's really done an impressive job of bringing his game along as his career has gone on. All right, Johnny, needing a running back to close out the board.
Yeah, I need a running back. Actually, quick little story here. Did you guys know 4 years ago today is when Hull played Randolph, when Randolph won, and they returned a punt that Hull hit off of their offensive lineman's head, and then he caught it and ran into the end zone for ultimately what was the winning score. A little bit of fun fact. I
Do you
had that.
know who that was that caught that punt and returned
No,
it
who
for a
was it?
score? It's Mackay White's older brother,
Real, get out.
Malik White. Yeah.
That memory popped up today. It is an all-time
That was
video.
ridiculous.
That was great.
So yeah, maybe there's some magic in for Randolph like that this year. Yeah, running back, I'm gonna go Charlie Hajar here for Norwell. I mean, again, we just we talk about how much they run the ball. At a certain point, it is a numbers game. Lucarelli doesn't seem to get tired at all, but when he does give the ball off, it's mostly Gerhardt, but also Hajar. So they get him involved in a number of different ways. So he's obviously a big piece of that offense. And when it comes to Gillette, it's all hands on deck. So you're going to need everyone to step up.
Yeah, and he's really capable of breaking off the big play. Like we've seen it time and time again over the course of the season. So, you're rolling the dice and hopefully he comes up big for you. I think that, he's just as likely as anybody. You get to these games, it's just about one play. It's Bill Vos, one of the great Vosisms. Every score is on one snap of the football. Every scoring play has always happened on one snap of the football. So it's just being in the right place at the right time. being the guy that gets his number called and answering that call. And Charlie's done it over the course of the season quite a bit. All right. Brendan, kick off what I think is going to be a very interesting final round here. Three defenses got to come off the board. Where are you going first?
Oh, it's tough. It's really tough. I am gonna go with. You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna go with the Cohasset defense. I feel like it's gonna be a very tough matchup. But all of these matchups are tough at this stage.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're gonna go turn into blowouts or they're gonna turn into nail biters. But that's just Gillette for you. At this stage of the game, you got to take your picks, and I'm gonna go with Cohasset.
Was that screw it? Like I can't even try to like process and pick one. Like, they're all it's all tough. They're all going to be hard. So let's go with
Well,
Cohasset.
I'm just
It
looking
wasn't
at the
like a
teams. I
screw
think
it. Let me pick the worst of the bunch, or at least
I
like
feel like Amesbury. See, the thing is, Amesbury has the potential to put up 40 points in a
yeah,
game, which is tough. But I look at the other matchups. So do all the other teams. So
yeah. There are some
that's
big
the
time
hard part.
offenses on the
I'm
other
just going to go
side.
with the team I think has a good chance to win, and it's going to be really tough. But I think Cohasset might have the best chance.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. All right, that's going to bring it to me. Um, you know what? It wasn't a super high scoring game last time around, even though they lost. So I'm going to go with Randolph. I think they keep this one pretty low scoring. I also think it's still a very good West Boylston team. It's not the same West Boylston team as the last couple of years. And even if this one doesn't break the right way for Randolph, I still think this one's probably going to be on the lower scoring side of things rather than higher. So
21-17.
say again.
21-17.
Yeah.
That's my prediction for that
There
one.
you go. I like it. All right, Johnny, round it out.
I mean, two of these I think scare me a little bit. So this is part of the reason I'm going with this pick, but I'm going to go with the Severian defense. I think it largely depends on who is under center for St. John's Prep. Is Vargas
Yeah.
healthy? Who's throwing the ball around the yard? But they were up 21-6 with about 4 minutes left in that game on Thanksgiving, and then proceeded to fumble twice in their own territory to, kind of give Prep the runway to score some points. So now that I'm saying it's going to, they're going to keep them sub 10, but I think, given the three matchups that remain, that's at least one that we know, hey, this is a good defense. Alfanaro is a defensive coach. He's always going to start defense and work from there. And, I think it depends on who St. John's Prep has a quarterback, but we kind of have a little bit of a sample size for that.
Yeah, I think it's another one that has probably a fair potential to be on the lower scoring side of things. I think that it'll be certainly on the lower scoring half of all games at Gillette, I think, this upcoming week, almost without a doubt. Um, and
The defense, oh no, I was going to say they're coming off a shutout at Gillette, but I think they gave up a late seven to need them. Was it 14-7 or was it 14-0?
no, I think it was
14-7.
yeah, it was 14-7. Yeah.
Still, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, that's a defense that's coming off of one touchdown at Gillette.
And it
And
was
I
it
think
was a low
Vargas is
scoring game 2 years ago again.
probably going to be out. He was still on crutches at the
Wow.
last game.
That's too bad. Although we did see Grayson Foley on crutches against Hanover, and then he was back the next week
That's
tearing
true.
up. So, all right, well, that does it for the Week 14 WATD Fantasy Draft Super Bowl Week edition. Let me run through the board. Brennan out of the top slot. Norwell quarterback Jack Lucarelli. Running backs out of Norwell, Colin Gerhart, and out of Severian, Rocco Sestito. Wide receivers out of Severian, Christian McIntyre, and out of Situate, Cam Cerusi with the Cohasset defense. Out of the number 2 spot, my quarterback is Abe Cornett out of Randolph. My running backs, Gus Green out of Cohasset, Grayson Foley out of Situate. My wide receivers, Tyler Stelgis out of Situate, Nolan Flaherty out of Cohasset with the Randolph defense, and Johnny out of the 3-hole. Your quarterback, Michael Wildfire out of Cohasset. Your running backs, Makai White out of Randolph and Charlie Hajar out of Norwell, with your wide receivers, Max Monahan out of Cohasset and Miller Shea out of Situate, and the Severian defense. All right, well, that's it, folks. No more drafts this season. That's the final one. Look forward to seeing how it all shakes out. If you haven't seen, we will have 4 Super Bowl broadcasts coming up this week. Thursday night, 5 o'clock and 7:45. First, it's Cohasset and Amesbury. Then it's Norwell and Fairhaven. We'll be back at it on Saturday morning, 10 a.m. with Randolph West Boylston, immediately followed by Scituate versus Tewksbury. It's going to be a really fun week at Gillette. Tune in to 95.9 WATD to catch all of the action. For Brennan and Johnny, I am Quinn. And for a final time, this has been the WATD Fantasy Draft.